Yes, yes, yes. It's another edition of Beyond Reason Radio. This is your host, Michael Yaffee, as always, the voice of reason in a world that is beyond reason. For those of you that are new to the show, Beyond Reason Radio, we talk faith, culture, and politics, and I try to be the voice where we try to go through everything in the news that is beyond reason, everything in the world that is beyond reason, and try to sift through it and try to give some reason to it. But we try to tell the truth on things that go on, and I do that as well. I'm a part of the millennial generation. I'm the voice of the millennial generation, the voice of truth out there, once again, in a world that is beyond reason. And, of course, you can follow me on Twitter at BeyondReasonR. All right, so let's get straight into it. First, I have to comment on the whole Ben Carson thing. Ben Carson apparently got caught in a lie today that he lied about getting accepted to West Point. From what they're admitting, he didn't really get accepted. He just had a meeting with them, and he would have got accepted. He was still top of his ROTC class, but now there's a lot of skepticism. Is Ben Carson a liar? Okay, fine. He probably shouldn't have lied about that. It was from a book forever ago, and he had a ghostwriter for that, of course. But I just think it's funny how immediately I'm seeing everyone saying his campaign is over. This could be a killer for Ben Carson. So let me get this straight. Ben Carson lies about getting into West Point. He merely had a meeting and had a process to get in, but he didn't do that. He decided not to apply. He lies about that. It's a campaign killer. Hillary Clinton goes to a Benghazi hearing, is caught in a lie to the American people, knowing she knew it was a terrorist attack, and then lied to the American people and said it was about a video. She got caught in that lie at the hearing, but after the hearing, everyone says Hillary Clinton is presidential, and this will help her campaign, and she is president. She'll be the next president, even though she was caught in a much worse lie than, say, like Ben Carson. And Ben Carson's campaign's killed. Hillary Clinton's campaign is better. It doesn't make any sense to me. I guess lies help Democrats. I don't understand it. But it's about image. She looked presidential when she was addressed about this. But she was caught in a lie, just like Ben Carson was. So that's where we are in the world today. Okay, enough on that, because I've been thinking a lot about this week of what I want to talk about today. And there's a lot of things been going through my head about what to talk about today. And you're all going to make fun of me. You're all going to make fun of me after this. But I got an idea of what to talk about because on Netflix, I happened to find the cartoon, The Justice League. You know, for those who don't know, it's from the comic book, The Justice League, with Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman, The Flash, and others. And I found this cartoon, and I used to love those cartoons. I used to love the Batman cartoons and the Justice League cartoons and the Superman cartoons from the 90s, the late 90s, and the early 2000s. I used to love those cartoons growing up. And I started watching them, and they're still really good, even though I'm an adult. I mean, it's a lot better than a lot of the other filth that's out there, a lot of the other crap that's out there on Netflix. So I started watching it, and it's good. It's good. I mean, to get a lesson. So today, we're going to get a lesson from the Justice League. Yes. You all know, a lot of you listeners out there watch this show. It's good. It's good. It's on Netflix. You just check it out. I just got through the first season. All right. And the lesson we're going to get from the Justice League today, from our superheroes today, big superhero fan base out there, I'm sure. But I started thinking about different things. And so today I'm going to talk about how I believe in many ways this country, this nation, is a suicidal nation. And I'm not talking about individuals committing suicide, that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about as a nation, we keep doing things that are almost suicidal to our future. And yet we keep doing them, and the people keep supporting it and growing support for these things that are killing us. And so that's what makes me think sometimes we're suicidal. Sometimes we're giving up on our own the greatest country that has ever existed on the face of the earth. And the people are buying into it. So the people need a little guidance, of course, from the Justice League. I just like the music. Come on, you know you want to go fight crime right now because of this music. All right, that's enough of that. So I'm watching an episode of the Justice League. Okay. And there was one episode. Keep up with me here. I'm going to get to some important stuff here about how we're becoming the suicidal nation on many fronts. And I'm going to get to the many different ways we are doing this. There's many different angles to this. It's not just one thing, but it's a combination of things that is kind of making us this suicidal nation. But later in the show as well, I'm going to give you hope for the future. I don't want to just be a downer. This stuff is important. It needs to get out there. But I also want to give you hope for the future. So we'll do that as well. So I'm watching an episode of the Justice League, the cartoon at home on Netflix. Don't make fun of me. Don't judge me. It's good. Trust me. And there's an episode where they travel to another planet called War World. Okay, and then they end up capturing Superman because they want him to fight. It's almost like Gladiator. They have these gladiator games in War World, and where they make people fight. And the leader, the evil leader of War World, gets into a conversation with one of his advisors before one of the big fights. And I heard this, and I'm like, this is us. This is us. This is where we are headed right now. And, well, this was the exchange from the Justice League.
Our nation's food ration is being cut another 15%. And then there are the medical shortages, the power blackouts.
Why do you persist in bothering me with these petty details?
Petty? But, sire, if this continues, think of the consequences. Why, people are already starting to talk about...
Rebellion? There's not going to be any rebellion. Not if I can keep giving them fights. Good ones. Enough to take their minds off their troubles.
And I heard that, and I'm like, this is us. We have all these problems that we're not dealing with, either locally or as a country. Riots in cities. Tepid economic growth. Record people out of the job force. Record people on food stamps. Healthcare costs going through the roof. Education is awful. Our students are compared to the rest of the world. And that's just in America. If you go to Europe right now, Europe is having a worse problem with the refugee crisis. They're having people in Europe, in Germany, talking about rebellion. But as we have these problems, we have government leaders who just try to give us stuff to take our mind off our troubles, to not deal with the real problems, but to take our mind off the troubles. And later in the episode, the Martian Manhunter, which is another member of the Justice League, all you comic book lovers out there will know who I'm talking about, another superhero. He's going to one of the games, and he has an exchange with someone going into the game. It's very interesting. Goes more to the point I'm trying to make.
Move it! You don't want to miss the fight?
So many spectators. Don't they have families or jobs to tend to?
Are you kidding? There's no jobs. I haven't worked in years.
That's dreadful.
You want to talk dreadful? You should have seen the last games. But I hear this Kryptonian is a real killer.
So in the episode, they're going, and he's like, why? There's some gladiator games. Why are all these people here? Don't they have jobs? Don't they have families? Don't they have things to do? No, we don't have jobs. We don't have jobs, but we don't care because there's a fight. We can be entertained. So the country's going to hell, and the people don't care because they're being entertained or they're being bought off. And this reminded me of something else that happened this week. And that happened in Orlando. As many of you know, I broadcast out of Orlando. And in Orlando, we have a mayor. His name's Buddy Dyer. And he won a re-election, again, to another term, record amount of terms. He's on track to be the longest sitting mayor in Orlando's history. And Orlando's having a lot of problems that I'm going to get to in a sec. But what is Buddy Dyer known for? Well, people like him because he gives us stuff. He spends all this money and gives us stuff. Listen to him talking about why he needs another term. This was Buddy Dyer after he won another re-election this week.
We've had a history of long-serving mayors, but sometimes if you don't have continuity, it's hard to get big things done. If you think about the Performing Arts Center, for instance, I campaigned on that in 2003. We opened it a year ago, so that would have been beyond an 8-year term limit. So there's many, many things. Sunrail I worked on for more than 8 years to get it out of the ground, and we haven't got it to the airport yet. So there's a lot of things still to do.
So what's the first thing he mentions? Not the crime problem in our city. Not the problem of low wages in the city. Not the problem of increased taxes because increased spending in the city. No. It's, well, I got a performing arts center built. Look at this. Be entertained. I got a Citrus Bowl redone. We have this new Amway Center. Come be entertained. And then he wanted to build a soccer stadium, but now they're building that privately, luckily. And I know people are like, well, that comes from the tourist tax dollars, and that's state funding, and he has to do this. He doesn't have to do this. I don't care where the money comes from. And by the way, he has to borrow the money and then pay it back with tourist tax dollars, and it comes from some property tax dollars as well. It's not all tourist tax dollars. But the point I'm getting at, and I disagree with that state law, that it has to be funded on sports stadiums and other venues like this. So now you have in Florida, you have stadiums like the Jacksonville Football Stadium, Raymond James Stadium, the Daytona Speedway that are all clamoring for state money right now. And luckily there's some people in Congress saying this is not what tax dollars are for. Why are we spending tax dollars on sports venues? You know, we hear all the time from the Obama administration that our infrastructure is crumbling. We need to spend more on infrastructure nationally. Well, maybe we should take some of that tourist tax dollars and use it to spend on the infrastructure if it's crumbling, not on sports stadiums. So that law needs to be changed. But the people don't care, is what I'm saying. We're suicidal. As we have all these other problems in the city, as we have all these other problems in the country, we hear mayors like Buddy Dyer say, look, I got you a Citrus Bowl. I got you a basketball stadium. I got you a performing arts center. Look at all this great stuff I could build. And the people are saying, I can't even afford to go to the games for one. But, I mean, now they can because at least the Magic are not doing that well. They're not cheap. But they're saying, look, I don't have a job. And the job I do have doesn't pay very much. We're having increased costs all over the place. And then you just increase property taxes on us. Why don't we fix the real problems? Why don't you focus on fixing real problems in this city instead of campaigning on sports stadiums and a train that nobody rides? And they want to redo the convention center again. It wasn't that long ago they built the new convention center in Orange County, and there's talk about redoing that again. And that's what I'm saying. And the people they just keep voting for him. In some ways, we are becoming, like I said, the suicidal nation. We've totally lost what the role of government is. And the people don't care because they're being entertained. They're getting stuff. And you have a Democrat Party right now that is literally campaigning on giving you more stuff. Of course, they have no way to pay for it. Obama this week talked about the new budget deal. And he said, this is being paid for responsibly. And I said on Monday's show, it's not paid for. This isn't paid for. They had to increase the debt ceiling to pay for it. We're going into more debt to pay for it. We're having to borrow money to pay for this stuff. It's not paid for. And yet we're increasing spending. On what? All this increase of spending, and yet the job market is still terrible. Record number of people on food stamps, like I've said. Tepid economic growth. Not anything like we saw in the 90s and 2000s. But, hey, the Democrats say, look, we haven't got enough. Your healthcare should be free. Your college tuition should be free. You should get more vacation time. We're not addressing the real problems. So that's the first way I see that we're becoming sort of the suicidal nation. In terms of our role of government and government spending, it's going to have to be paid for, or it's going to collapse. And I don't care who you blame for it, the Republicans or Democrats. The Republicans really are just as responsible now. Because in this last budget deal, they wanted increased spending as well. You had both parties fighting for increased spending while we're going into more debt. By the time Obama gets out of office, the debt will have doubled. $10 trillion in less than 10 years. And we're not really on any track to stop that at all. Unfunded liabilities are worse. Entitlements are worse. It's going to have to be addressed. But we can keep being entertained. We can keep going to, soccer games. And at least the soccer stadium, they finally paid for it on their own. That's good. But we can go to, at least we'll have Magic games in a brand new Amway Center that's was ridiculously too expensive. It's really nice. I like the Amway Center, but it's too nice. So it was ridiculous. Why? We didn't need to spend that much money on that for a basketball team. Unbelievable. I thank you all for listening. You are listening to Beyond Reason Radio. When I get back, the next thing I want to get to that is making us become somewhat of a suicidal nation is this whole division on race and this whole thing against cops. This idea that we are becoming a society and we're pushing a society where we not only don't trust our law enforcement, but we are actively campaigning against them. And I have an example of this, that it's gone too far. That when you have a society where a cop can't merely enforce the law and do their job, you have real problems. And that even when cops are doing good, which many cops do, that they're still being accused of bad things. And now cops are afraid to do their jobs. And now more and more people are just saying you shouldn't trust the cops at all. We'll get to that in the next segment. You're listening to Beyond Reason Radio here at BeyondReasonRadio.com and the Beyond Reason app.
You can now listen to the voice of the millennial generation on Podbean. Download the app or go to beyondreasonradio.podbean.com.
Orlando's newest dining sensation, Doc's Streetside Grill, specializes in amazing flavors at prices you'll love, with special events and entertainment ranging from trivia to live bands to poker every evening. There's something for everyone. Doc's has amazing flavors that are always fresh. You know the motto, made today, bought yesterday. Doc's is located across from Orlando Regional Medical Center on South Orange Avenue. Check out DocStreetSideGrill.com for more info. Doc's is your prescription for good times. See you there.
Subscribe to the Beyond Reason podcast today on your Stitcher app and hear the voice of reason anytime.
Hey, this is Mike Yaffee from Bud Hedinger Live and Beyond Reason Radio, and I have a question for you. Are you planning on taking any long road trips? Well, I have the perfect tool for you to make that trip go by a little bit faster. What you want to do is download the iHeartRadio app. With the iHeartRadio app, you can find your favorite music stations or create your own custom station. Don't forget to look up your favorite talk show hosts. You can find that on there as well. Make sure to download the app today at iHeartRadio.com.
You can catch the latest Beyond Reason podcast on SoundCloud today. Download the app today and search Beyond Reason Radio.
For the people in our military, it's a time of sacrifice and duty. That's why all 4 military aid societies have joined together to form the Armed Forces Relief Trust to help military families cope with financial and medical emergencies at home. With so many serving overseas, the need is greater than ever. You can learn more and donate at www.afrtrust.org. A message from the National Association of Broadcasters and this station.
Hey, the Budman here, inviting you to join Yaffee and me and your fellow patriots for our next Republican presidential debate viewing party at Doc's Streetside Grill. The excitement starts Tuesday, November 10th at 6 p.m. Come on into Doc's and enjoy a fabulous and affordable dinner. While together we watch both the early and the primetime debate. Our debate viewing parties at Doc's have been great, so don't miss this one. Tuesday, November 10th, Doc's Streetside Grill, 1315 South Orange Avenue, across the street from ORMC. For menu info and details, visit DocStreetsideGrill.com or call 407-841-3601.
You can now listen to the voice of the millennial generation on Podbean. Download the app or go to beyondreasonradio.podbean.com.
Welcome back to the show, everybody. This is Michael Yaffee, your host. You can follow me on Twitter at BeyondReasonR. We're going through everything in the world today that is beyond reason. I'm your voice of reason. I'm your voice of truth. I'm the voice of the millennial generation. Talking with you today. I don't mean to be a downer today. I don't always want to be a downer. I want to give you hope, and I will give you hope. But a lot was on my mind this week about how we have become a suicidal nation, that we are willingly giving up our society, our greatest society. And there's many different facets to that. In the last segment, I talked about spending, government spending, the role of government, and how we're crippling ourselves. While our leaders promote things like sports stadiums, the economy's awful. Crime is awful. Unrest is awful. And it's our leaders' faults, but it's our faults, because those same leaders that do that keep getting elected. And that's because we like the stuff. We like when our leaders say they can give us this stuff. But there's also one other thing that's happening that I've noticed that really concerns me. And it's this whole issue with police officers. Now, obviously, there are some bad police officers out there. But I think, and even Obama himself admitted this, that the vast majority of police officers are good, are not racist, are not discriminatory, are just trying to do their job and trying to enforce the law. But what's happening is a movement. And I'm not just talking Black Lives Matter, but I'm talking about, it's just everybody's fueling this fury that if a cop does anything to you, especially if you're black, that they're racist. Promoting this idea that if they do anything, they're racist. And it's not good. When our cops cannot merely enforce the law and do their jobs because they're afraid to do their jobs, and when everybody out there has this distrust of cops, no matter who they are, they have to be distrusted. And what happens is it fuels anger, it fuels them not listening to cops, and it fuels more violence against cops, but it just ruins the civil society. And a good example of this is what I'm talking about is there was a lady in Dallas, a black lady, who was walking in her neighborhood, Dorothy Bland. And she wrote a column after an encounter with cops. And she said she was very upset because the cops pulled her over for walking while black. Walking while black. That these cops pulled her over and asked for her ID just because she was black. And there was no reason at all to do it. And she was saying, well, that's what happens when you are a black person walking in an affluent neighborhood, but she's like, I live there. They shouldn't have stopped me. Couldn't believe it. So the cops released the video, the dash cam video of the whole encounter. And it's very different from what I'm saying. And this is the whole point. When the cops are merely doing their job and they're actually just trying to help her out, trying to keep her safe, they're still being accused of racism. This unrest between people and cops is not good for the civil society. And here's some of the exchange.
Okay. The reason why we're coming up here to talk to you, just when you're walking up this way, make sure you're walking on this side of the road, because I don't know if you noticed, there was a truck that pretty much had to go to a stop because you understand you're working out and stuff. Yeah. But just make sure you're on this side, that way you can see, because you're impeding traffic, for one, and two, it's a safety issue. We don't want you to get hit.
How dare those cops? Look at them talk to her, concerned about her safety. And you watch the video, they just merely walk up to her and they're like, look, just walk on this side of the road. It's about your safety. And you're impeding traffic. Seems reasonable. They were very reasonable to her. There's some parts where they're laughing at her. I'll continue on here.
Somebody's not, because you can see people coming this way and you can jump out of the way. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. But if you, on this side, someone come back and hit you and not even see you. And you ain't know what hit you. You know what I'm saying?
Okay,
so,
I appreciate it.
Not a problem. Do you have your ID on you real quick?
No, I don't have my ID on me, but if you want to verify, I'm the property owner. Drive. The provost for UNT lives just down the street here. Right. He can verify that I live in this neighborhood.
Oh, that's fine.
I'm like amazed. I get stopped for walking.
Okay.
Do you know how many times I walk this street?
No, it's not. We're just concerned for your safety. We're just letting you know. Just make sure you walk on this side. Mm-hmm. Because I was behind you for about 20 seconds. Mm-hmm. You didn't even know I was behind you. Yeah. So it's just a safety issue. So do you mind if I get your name and date of birth real quick? That way I can just make sure I put it with the call.
Oh no, they asked for her ID. They asked for her name and date of birth. How could they? They only did that because she was black. No. That's common protocol. They do that with everyone. You see what I'm saying here? And then, so after this encounter, and this encounter goes on for a little bit, and it's very peaceful, and eventually the cops let her go, and, they walk away. Nothing happens. But then she writes an article, and she's like, I didn't want to end up like Trayvon Martin, and I was just pulled over because I was walking while black. You see what I mean? And by the way, for those in the Black Lives Matter movement, when people do stuff like this, it just hurts the credibility of your movement. So if you really want your movement to have credibility, you need to make sure that this stuff doesn't get spread, these lies. But the whole thing's ridiculous, and people will say, Mike, you just don't understand because you're white. That's never happened to you. That would never happen to you because you're white. Well, that's a lie too. That has happened to me. I've been stopped by cops for stuff like that. And it was just exactly like what happened. One time a friend of mine and I were going to walk a trail near where I live, and we like to walk at night because it's kind of cool and there's fireflies and everything. And there was a couple of cops on bicycles there. And they stopped us, and they were actually, out there looking, because I guess a lot of criminals will use that as a path to escape, this trail, because it's kind of in the woods. And they were saying, you really can't be walking out here at night. And it's, I was just walking. Oh, how dare they? Walking while white. But I was just walking, and they got my ID as well, and they got my friend's ID. They had to get the ID because that's protocol when they have a situation like that. They get the ID, and then after that, they documented, and we went on our way, and nothing happened. It was exactly like this situation. Exactly. And most of it was they were concerned for our safety, just like this situation. They didn't want us out there because they were concerned for our safety. They were both white cops. I'm a white guy. Same situation. Should I be outraged at the discriminatory of the cops? No, they're just doing their jobs. The vast majority of cops are just doing their jobs. And yet we're creating a society where every time a cop merely does their job, we're going to accuse them of racism? Do you understand how destabilizing that is in our world? To do something like that. where cops are afraid of doing their jobs. In fact, the FBI director, James Comey, came out last week and talked about this. And hold on one sec here. And talked about this and how he thinks this is a growing problem.
I spoke to officers privately in one big city precinct who described being surrounded by young people with mobile phones held high, taunting them when they get out of their cars. They said to me, "We feel under siege and we don't feel much like getting out of our cars." And so the question that's been asked of me is, are these kinds of things changing police behavior all over the country? And is that what explains the map and the calendar? The honest answer is, I don't know. And I don't know that that explains it entirely. But I do have a strong sense that some part of the explanation is a chill wind that has blown through law enforcement over the last year. And that wind is surely changing behavior.
That's what's happening. When we start being like this lady and accusing cops for not doing anything, you're creating a disincentive for the cops to do their jobs. And that's not, I don't think there's anybody who can agree that's good for society. Like I said, and this is just people doing this. And it's blacks and whites doing this too. It's not just blacks that do this. There's a lot of whites that are starting to fuel this hatred of cops out there. It's beyond reason, and it's another reason why we are becoming the suicidal society. Make sure to follow me at Beyond Reason R. And by the way, if you have any comments, I had one person do it this week. I do little videos that I'll say what I think is beyond reason. Go to my Facebook page, facebook.com/beyondreasonradio, like the Facebook page, and post a comment or a little video on there and tell me what you think is beyond reason. And I might play it on the show. It'll be good. Good interaction from the audience. When I get back, I'm going to talk about the next thing makes us suicidal, and that's education and Common Core, and how it's very dangerous for the future. We'll get to that. You are listening to Beyond Reason Radio with me, your host, Michael Yaffee, at beyondreasonradio.com and the Beyond Reason Radio app.
You know what's beyond reason? Yaffee is now on YouTube. Go to YouTube now and just search Beyond Reason Radio.
Doc's Street Side Grill. I have to tell you about my favorite restaurant now because our show is sponsored by my favorite restaurant, and that is Doc's Street Side Grill. And this coming Tuesday, Bud and I will be there for another Republican debate viewing party. And it should be pretty interesting as always because it's the Fox Business News Network debate. And after the whole CNBC debacle, it's going to be very interesting to see what Fox News does differently and how the moderators react. And there's less debaters. Christie and Huckabee got kicked off the main debate stage, so hopefully that will give more time for the actual debaters. So what you want to do is join us at Doc's Street Side Grill at 6 p.m. on Tuesday night. Doc's Street Side Grill is right across the street from ORMC, right off Orange Avenue. What you want to do also is go to DocStreetSideGrill.com, check out the menu. I recommend the wings. I always tell people this. I recommend the wings. Their wings are good. They're big wings. You can get them very hot, but they also have good things. The last time I was there, I got their brisket, which they have on special over the weekends. And what other place has brisket? There's not a lot of places in Florida that have good brisket, but they had it, and it was delicious. Of course, like everything at Doc's Street Side Grill is delicious. Doc's Street Side Grill on 1315 West Orange Avenue, right across the street from ORMC, right outside of downtown Orlando. Make sure to go to DocStreetSideGrill.com to check it out as well. Doc's Street Side Grill, your prescription for fun times.
Orlando's newest dining sensation, Doc's Street Side Grill, specializes in amazing flavors at prices you'll love, with special events and entertainment ranging from trivia to live bands to poker every evening. There's something for everyone. Doc's has amazing flavors that are always fresh. You know the motto, made today, bought yesterday. Doc's is located across from Orlando Regional Medical Center on South Orange Avenue. Check out DocStreetSideGrill.com for more info. Doc's is your prescription for good times. See you there.
Subscribe to the Beyond Reason podcast today on your Stitcher app and hear the voice of reason anytime.
Hey, this is Mike Yaffee from Bud Hedinger Live and Beyond Reason Radio, and I have a question for you. Are you planning on taking any long road trips? Well, I have the perfect tool for you to make that trip go by a little bit faster. What you want to do is download the iHeartRadio app. With the iHeartRadio app, you can find your favorite music stations or create your own custom station. Don't forget to look up your favorite talk show hosts. You can find that on there as well. Make sure to download the app today at iHeartRadio.com.
You can catch the latest Beyond Reason podcast on SoundCloud today. Download the app today and search Beyond Reason Radio.
For the people in our military, it's a time of sacrifice and duty. That's why all 4 military aid societies have joined together to form the Armed Forces Relief Trust to help military families cope with financial and medical emergencies at home. With so many serving overseas, the need is greater than ever. You can learn more and donate at www.afrtrust.org. A message from the National Association of Broadcasters and this station.
Hey, the Budman here, inviting you to join Yaffee and me and your fellow patriots for our next Republican presidential debate viewing party at Doc's Streetside Grill. The excitement starts Tuesday, November 10th at 6 p.m. Come on in to Doc's and enjoy a fabulous and affordable dinner. While together we watch both the early and the primetime debate. Our debate viewing parties at Doc's have been great, so don't miss this one. Tuesday, November 10th, Doc's Streetside Grill, 1315 South Orange Avenue, across the street from ORMC. For menu info and details, visit DocStreetSideGrill.com or call 407-841-3601.
You want to listen to Beyond Reason Radio live on your smartphone? Download the Beyond Reason Radio app now. Available in the Google Play or Apple App Stores.
Yes, download the Beyond Reason Radio app at Google Play or the Apple App Stores. You can listen to the show live, or you can check any of the podcasts. You can also find my website there, beyondreasonradio.com, and a bunch of other cool stuff as well. I thank you all for joining me today. I'm the voice of reason, the voice of truth, the voice of the millennial generation, doing Orlando's Smart Talk Radio here at beyondreasonradio.com. I do the show every Monday and Friday night live at 8 p.m., but you can check out the podcast anytime at many different places, including iHeartRadio. So if you have the iHeartRadio app, you can catch it there as well. In the show today, I talked about how I was watching an episode of the Justice League, and it inspired me to talk about what I'm talking about today. Yes. About how, unfortunately, we are becoming... It's the Justice League intro, by the way, if you don't know. It's on Netflix. Just watch it. Good stuff. Better. I mean, it's a cartoon, yes. Okay, make fun of me all you want, but it's better than a lot of other stupid crap out there. But I was watching it, and I talked about early in the show why it inspired me to talk about this, and I thought about today how in many ways we are becoming, unfortunately, the suicidal nation. That we keep doing things under the nation, and it's the people, it's our leaders, it's our culture, it's everything, making us a suicidal nation. That we are doing things that are destroying us, and they're going to destroy us in the long run if we don't reverse course. And I talked about the role of government and government spending, and I talked about the last segment, political correctness and this hatred against cops, that it's just getting too far. Then when a cop merely does their job and they're screamed at for being racist, when they're obviously not. And it's being proven, but it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter because it doesn't fit the narrative. But the next thing I want to talk about that really concerns me, because I've been reading about this lately, and it's Common Core. Now, I told you I'd give you some hope. Some good hope on this, on Common Core, is it's not just conservative talk show hosts like me who are very upset at Common Core and what it's doing. But there's actually many teachers out there that are upset at it as well. And there's many parents out there who are very upset at it as well. And I've talked to people running for school board. I've talked to school board members, and they don't like it because it totally gets rid of any control that they have over the education system. And I've talked to parents that do not agree with me on politics, and they hate it as well. So there is some hope that at least that can be reversed. But I think education is a big problem. And I found an article here in Newsmax that talks about 5 reasons teachers criticize Common Core. And a few things here. There's one, more training is needed before the teachers can use the new standards. Okay. Number 2 is the big one for me. The standards take away local control. And you might not think it's a big deal. You might think national standards are good. High standards are a good thing. But who should have control of your student's education? Should it be the Department of Education, or should it be you, the parent? Should you at least have some say? You have a say when you elect your local school board members, yet they have no control to do everything. The whole reason education was supposed to be localized was so you as a parent, if you could see that there was problems in your local school, problems with your local teachers, where they're not learning the things that they should be learning, that you as a parent would be able to go to the school board, and you and other parents could do this and make a difference by talking to them and make a positive difference because you are there with your child. You can see what's happening. Your local school board is there locally in the school. They can see what's happening in the school and in their community. But right now they have no control because it's taking away all that local control. The other thing is the standards don't encourage kids to creative thinking. Some teachers complain that the types of reading materials encouraged under Common Core standards are not going to be effective in teaching the best analytical skills in language arts. Now, there's a reason why this is doing this. They're doing this, and I've been reading about this more. People like Bill Gates have been promoting this, and there's a reason why. Because they say this is for the 21st century, the new economy. What they're trying to do, and they won't admit it, but what they're trying to do is they don't want they don't care about creative, they don't care about the arts or anything like that. What they're trying to do is make worker bees. They're trying to get more students to be good employees for big companies. So they can focus more on this other stuff and not focus on the creative aspect, the innovative aspect, the things that can encourage a student and has encouraged our country to get where we are, where a student's not only good at math and good at being good workers, but it also encourages them to think critically, to think deeper about things, to make their own decisions about society, philosophy, to create art, which can be very inspirational to a society. There's more to education than just making sure you're a good worker for a big corporation like Microsoft one day. But the leaders of this see that as the future, and they want you to be good worker bees because they think that'll help the economy, and we're destroying ourselves. The next thing, the standards put essential topics in the wrong grade level. According to the Times Union, a teacher called the standards a nightmare because they force college and career readiness. He argues that young learners, such as those he teaches in first grade, are not ready for that kind of focus. I sure was not ready in first grade for that kind of focus. Number 5, the fifth reason, the early childhood standards are not appropriate. The chair of Advocacy Committee of the National Association of Early Childhood Teachers Educators says the people who wrote these standards do not appear to have any background in child development or early childhood education. And this is true. And this is what I'm saying when we've become a suicidal society. See, all of this stuff goes together. So you have, the true role of education was supposed to be to prepare you, a citizen of the country, to participate in self-government. Yet I talk to college professors, and they are getting rid of government being taught in colleges. At least they get rid of it being mandatory. When I was in high school, government was taught one semester, not even a full year. American history was taught 1 year, and it's not really taught that much. These are things that should be taught. Government should be taught. Economics should be taught, and it should be taught more because that is the true role of education. So you can be able to participate in your government, in your society. But that's not what they see the role is. They see it as making you a good worker bee for some big corporation in the future. And when you get rid of creative thinking, you're just going to have a society that falls in line with all this stuff. And all this stuff goes hand in hand. And unfortunately, you have the big unions. See, this is why I talk about the role of government, because big government can have so many effects on a society. You have big government. Just think of the trend here. You have big government that got involved in housing market, destroyed the housing market. It collapsed. It collapsed the economy with it. The economy grows. All of a sudden, the states don't have enough tax revenue. Okay. So they have to lay off teachers. Well, what? Because of the union rules, they can't keep the good teachers and lay off the bad teachers. They have to lay off whoever is the youngest teacher. Whatever teachers have not been there the longest. Even if some of those younger teachers are the best teachers, they have to be laid off. Okay. You can't negotiate those things. Then you have big government that has higher taxes. You have that in combination with the lower revenue. You have that combination with the collapsing economy. You have big unions getting involved in that, destroyed the car industry for one industry. It's destroyed Detroit. See how these things kind of fall in line? One thing after another thing after another thing. And when we take out the role of government, these things, big government, big unions, crony capitalism, these things just kind of go hand in hand. Another reason the economy collapsed was because of skyrocketing oil prices and gas prices. The fact is, I mean, you can blame the oil companies and gas companies all you want, but the fact is that the main reason is because the world demand for oil went up, but the supply wasn't there to meet the demand. Now, we have plenty of oil reserves that are not being tapped in this country, along with coal reserves and others that were not being tapped until fracking, but are still not being tapped. Why? Because the government won't let them do it. They won't let them drill in federal lands and other places and off coasts. See, this is suicidal. So you had high oil prices, plus the housing market bubble burst. People couldn't afford plus the housing bubble created by the government. People couldn't afford their mortgages. That housing bubble burst. Because of the high gas prices, they couldn't afford their mortgages. So it all collapsed. The economy collapses. The government was spending too much to begin with, and all of a sudden they didn't have the money to spend it. So they get in even more debt. The cities can't handle it, so they have to lay off good teachers. The car companies couldn't handle it, so they have to get bailed out by the government, of course. And then you have the things in talking about education in college. The government got involved with that. Tuition goes up. Now you have another bubble being created of student loan debt. See? That's why I talk about these things. But education's a big thing, and it really worries me where we're going with Common Core. Because the focus is not in the right place. The focus isn't about making the student understand self-government or making about the parents want to be more involved in their students. Parents don't understand this new Common Core stuff, so they can't be involved with their kids, even though study after study shows that when a parent is actively involved in their kid's education, that the kid does much better. But we're trying to take the parent out of that. But there is hope, like I said, because a lot of teachers are upset at this, a lot of governors are upset at this, and it looks like it might be reversed. At least some of it in some states. When I get back after a quick break, I want to talk about the main thing, unfortunately, that's making us a suicidal nation, and that is our lack of belief in God. It seems that our people are turning away from God. It's not good. That is the foundation of all of it. So if you take out that, it can be worrisome. It can be, beyond reason. You're listening to Beyond Reason Radio here at BeyondReasonRadio.com.
If you miss any of the show, you can download the Beyond Reason podcast on iTunes.
Orlando's newest dining sensation, Doc's Streetside Grill, specializes in amazing flavors at prices you'll love, with special events and entertainment ranging from trivia to live bands to poker every evening. There's something for everyone. Doc's has amazing flavors that are always fresh. You know the motto, made today, bought yesterday. Doc's is located across from Orlando Regional Medical Center on South Orange Avenue. Check out DocStreetSideGrill.com for more info. Doc's is your prescription for good times. See you there.
Subscribe to the Beyond Reason podcast today on your Stitcher app and hear the voice of reason anytime.
Hey, this is Mike Yaffee from Bud Hedinger Live and Beyond Reason Radio, and I have a question for you. Are you planning on taking any long road trips? Well, I have the perfect tool for you to make that trip go by a little bit faster. What you want to do is download the iHeartRadio app. With the iHeartRadio app, you can find your favorite music stations or create your own custom station. Don't forget to look up your favorite talk show hosts. You can find that on there as well. Make sure to download the app today at iHeartRadio.com.
You can catch the latest Beyond Reason podcast on SoundCloud today. Download the app today and search Beyond Reason Radio.
For the people in our military, it's a time of sacrifice and duty. That's why all 4 military aid societies have joined together to form the Armed Forces Relief Trust to help military families cope with financial and medical emergencies at home. With so many serving overseas, the need is greater than ever. You can learn more and donate at www.afrtrust.org. A message from the National Association of Broadcasters and this station.
Hey, the Budman here, inviting you to join Yaffee and me and your fellow patriots for our next Republican presidential debate viewing party at Doc's Streetside Grill. The excitement starts Tuesday, November 10th at 6 p.m. Come on in to Doc's and enjoy a fabulous and affordable dinner. While together we watch both the early and the primetime debate. Our debate viewing parties at Doc's have been great, so don't miss this one. Tuesday, November 10th, Doc's Streetside Grill, 1315 South Orange Avenue, across the street from ORMC. For menu info and details, visit DocStreetSideGrill.com or call 407-841-3601.
If you heart Beyond Reason Radio, listen to the Beyond Reason Radio podcast on iHeartRadio. Just download the iHeartRadio app and search Beyond Reason Radio.
You all know you heart Beyond Reason Radio. You love Beyond Reason Radio, so download the iHeartRadio app and search Beyond Reason Radio. This is the voice of reason, the voice of truth, and this is Orlando Smart Talk Radio here at BeyondReasonRadio.com and the Beyond Reason Radio app. We do the show live every Monday and Friday at 8 p.m., and hopefully we'll expand the show shortly in the future 2 more days. But you can catch the podcast of it anytime as well, and there's also other cool stuff on my website as well. I thank you all for joining me. I am your host, Michael Yaffee, as always, and I've been talking about today how in many ways, unfortunately, we are becoming a suicidal nation. That it's really, we like to blame the politicians, and they do a lot of bad stuff. We like to blame big corporations, crony capitalism, and they do a lot of bad stuff. We like to blame all these activist groups, and yes, that's all very true. But as I talked about before, when I see we elect someone like Buddy Dyer again and again and again, even though the real problems in Orlando don't get fixed, this is happening across the country. And all those politicians in Washington that are causing the problem, well, they're being elected by us, the people, because we're not paying attention. So instead of us being destroyed, attacked, we're actually suicidal. And we need to wake up. And I pointed out in several different ways how we are suicidal. But unfortunately, the scariest thing, and like I said, I don't mean to be a downer, but this stuff needs to be said. And there is hope out there. But let me get to this first. And this is the sad thing. And this is what the article says. Millennials are slowly taking America to hell. Actually, I think there's a lot of good millennials out there. They listen to this show. But I just love the headline of that. It's kind of funny. But those in younger generation are less likely to believe in God, pray, or attend religious services. And there was a poll done by the Pew Research Center that showed that, unfortunately, our belief in God in this society is declining. And yes, it's unfortunately being led by my generation, old millennials. 34% of older millennials say they are not religiously affiliated. They're religiously unaffiliated. It's 36% of young millennials. Now, baby boomers at 17, and then Generation X is 23. So it's obviously going up as we get younger. According to the study, millennials will only become less observant based on current trends. So the younger and younger people we get, that's where they are. But as a society as a whole, this is happening. When there was a time, now it's still the majority of people in the country say they believe in God, but it's a lot less than it used to be, and it's continually declining. All you have to do is read the words by the founders to show that the only way a republic can work is with a people who have a moral foundation in their Creator, in God. That without that foundation, this civil society can break down. I truly believe that. For instance, God, the Bible, teaches the importance of marriage, of family, of honoring your parents, such like that. But because we decided we don't want to believe in the Bible or believe in God, we don't care about marriage. So marriages are breaking up all over the place. We don't care about honoring our parents, so homes are breaking up all over the place. Even though study after study shows that families that are kept together, the children do better. So we don't care about that. We have, we complain about politicians lying. Well, the Bible teaches not to lie, but we don't care. It's not a big deal. This goes on and on. You want to talk about another thing that's dividing us. It's dividing us based on economic differences. We hate the rich if we're not rich. We want to take away their money. Want the government to take it away, take away their wealth, and give it to us because they need to be punished for being rich. The Bible teaches us not to covet. And this goes on and on and on. The moral foundations of a society, of how people should act, are on. The Bible says not to be anger. It says to love your enemies. All these things keep a society, a civil society, a free society together. But we don't do these things anymore. And we're slowly declining. We don't care about marriage. We don't care about the sanctity of life. We don't care about not having sex before marriage. So you have more broken homes and you have more kids with more problems. And of course they have to go on antidepressants and other things. You have more people lying and they don't care. Why? Why should they? What moral foundation is there not to? But the worst part about all this is I believe in God. And God warns societies all throughout the Bible that if you fall away from me, it's not going to be good for your society. So we are going to lose the blessings from our Creator first and foremost if we continue down this path, and it's already starting to happen. There's two examples in the Bible of this, by the way. You can either go to the example of the Israelites, when Jeremiah, Habakkuk, others were warning the Israelites to change their ways or your country will be done, and they didn't, and they were taken over by the Babylonians. But there's hope, because there was another instance in the Bible. It was the Nineveh, when Jonah warned them, and they actually did change their ways. So there you go. I wanted to give you guys some hope. Unfortunately, I had to be a little bit negative today with all the things, but I think it's important because I think we have to wake people up. But the good news is, at least some younger people, it seems like are waking up because the liberal policies affect the younger generation more than the older generation. And they're starting to wake up and realizing it's all a joke, it's a scam. So before we go, I just had to get this. Poll, 18 to 20-year-olds aren't as liberal as other millennials. And what this poll showed is that millennials, young millennials, 18 to 20, 42% are Democrats, still the majority, but 33% say they're Republican, 26% say they're independent. That's a lot different than 25 to 29, where 50% say they're Democrat, 27% say they're Republican, 23% say they're independent. So there's a changing shift there maybe in the younger millennials. I've talked about more about how Romney got more millennial votes than McCain. Obama lost millennial votes. He still got the majority, but there was a trend shifting, and that was one of the biggest shifts in the election. So there is hope, but it's up to us. That's why I get behind this microphone. But I just wanted to warn you guys today. These are serious things to think about. Okay, before I go, I said I was going to read this verse every time at the end of the show. I know there's a lot of negative stuff to think about out there. But you got to talk about what the Bible says, because the Bible is, of course, the true voice of reason. I always read from Philippians. Philippians chapter 4. Rejoice in the Lord always. I will say it again, rejoice. Your greatness be evident. Let your greatness be evident to all. The Lord is near. Do not be anxious about anything, but in every situation be by prayer and petition with thanksgiving. Present your requests to God. Later, he says, finally, brothers and sisters, whatever is true, whatever is noble, whatever is right, whatever is pure, whatever is lovely, whatever is admirable, if anything is excellent or praiseworthy, think about such things. Think about such things over the weekend. Try to have a good weekend. We'll get things back to the way they are. God's help. Be anxious for nothing. And I'll catch you guys on Monday.